Hello. Oh dear. I'm not sure if I'm wise or not, but I am now 1.4 kilometres into a 62 kilometre journey along the International Appalachian Trail. I started down that road in Dungiven and I'm heading all the way to Castlerock. So in total it's 62 kilometres, and the plan is to do it over 3 days, wild camping tonight and tomorrow night, and then finishing up in Castlerock on Tuesday. So I'm a wee bit nervous. I haven't had the best of preparation for this walk. If you follow my blog, or if you read the blog post I put up just the other day, you'll see I had a bit of a nightmare trip to the Mourns last weekend, and that was supposed to be a preparation and practice trip while camping on Slieve League, and that didn't happen. So I haven't slept in my tent. I haven't put my tent up since May last year. So I have to put it up on the top of a hill tonight for the first time in almost a year. Oh, anyway, things I do to myself. Anyway, I don't know if you can see way over there in the distance. There's a windmill just here, and just beyond that, you probably can't see that in the camera, is Bendradagh. That's tomorrow night's camp. The first thing I have to do today is get up over that hill there, which is Bendradagh, and then on the far side of that is, I think it's called O'Donnell's Hill, and that is the camp spot for tonight. So today is about 18 kilometres. I really want to camp on Bendradagh because I want to waken up tomorrow morning and get the views from the top of Bendradagh out over the sea and out over Bunglass Point and everything, which means I have a long day's walk tomorrow. It's just in around about 30 kilometres, but the good news is that then leaves me with a shorter day on Tuesday for the third day of about 14 kilometres. So yeah, and see how that goes. Be a bit of a test because it's quite a while since I've walked 30 kilometres in one day, and I've never done it with this big lump of a bag on my shoulder before. So yeah, I'm just glad they've got started, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to take things easy today. I started about 11 o'clock in the morning in Dungiven, and the plan is to reach the camp spot sometime between 5 and 6 o'clock. Give myself plenty of time to set up before it gets dark, and then good night's rest for a long day tomorrow. The weather today's not too bad. It's a wee bit overcast here now at the moment, but it's very, very calm. Hardly a breath of wind at all. There was a wee shower just before we arrived in Dungiven when Katrina dropped me off, but it's not forecasting any rain today at all, despite those very ominous looking clouds behind me. The weather forecast for tomorrow is kind of crap though. It's given fairly heavy rain overnight tonight to kind of peter out in the morning and turn to heavy drizzle, and I think it's going to be like light rain and heavy drizzle for most of the day tomorrow, which will add to the challenge of walking 30 kilometres, but sure, we'll see. The forecast keeps changing as well, so I've seen something varying from rain all day and right into the night tomorrow to finishing at about lunchtime to finishing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So just have to really suck it and see how it goes, but hopefully then on Tuesday get a nice dry day for a finish, and I would absolutely be delighted to get a nice sunrise on Tuesday morning and get the full impact of that view from the top of Bendradagh. Anyway, I have to get up this hill now. This is the start of the climbing here now, so for the next sort of 2 or 3 kilometres it's straight uphill up to the top of Bendradagh. But I think that's actually the hardest part of today, so I can get that out of the way and then I can enjoy the rest of the 14 kilometres. Anyway, better get on with it. hopefully you can see that okay. Just behind me, that's Bendradagh. So that is the first big challenge of the day done. About 4.7 kilometres walked, and that wasn't too bad. It was tarmac road the whole way up, so at least the ground underfoot was easy going. So just took my time, took it easy, stopped about 3/4 of the way up, got the drone up and got some nice footage of the cliffs and looking out from Loch Bradagh over towards Donegal, out over Loch Foyle, so hopefully that comes out nice. And I'm now on kind of a hard track, following the North Sperrins Way still. I don't know if this whole walk is the North Sperrins Way or not, but it quite possibly is, going by the signboard I saw down in Dungiven. But I'm up on the top of the ridge here and there's not a breath of wind. It's absolutely gorgeous. It really feels very spring-like. I couldn't have asked for a better day than today, so getting us a bit unsettled the nerves a good bit anyway. And I can actually see tonight's campsite and tomorrow's campsite. So over there, this is a disaster on the camera. Let's see if I turn around. Anyway, I don't know if you can see it over there. There's windmills, and then there's a big lump just on the edge of the ridge there, about halfway over, and then way on over in the far distance, I think that's Bendradagh. But I could definitely see Bendradagh earlier this morning anyway. So yeah, so that's not far off 5 kilometres done in an hour and 38 minutes. So the target today is, or the target for the 3 days actually, is to try and get 3 kilometres done every hour or so. That would give me 6 hours of walking today. Start at 11 o'clock, so that'll leave me finishing sometime between 5 and 6 to get camped up. And then tomorrow, that'll give me about 10 hours of walking, so that'll be a long day tomorrow. I'll need an early start and just keep the pace going all day tomorrow. But yeah, let tomorrow come tomorrow. I'm going to enjoy today anyway. So you can see how little breeze there is by the windmills there behind me. They're hardly turning at all, so yeah, off to a good start anyway. Well, that's halfway. Lunch is done. I'm just on the edge of Lenamore Forest now, very slightly over 9 kilometres and making really good time. Did that in just under 3 hours, and I've been stopped here for about half an hour, I'd say, altogether. A wee bit longer than I thought I would stop, but it's just so nice here. It's a wee bit dull now, but the sun's gone behind the clouds, but it's been just really nice, just sitting here in lovely spring sunshine, listening to the birds singing in the trees, and there's like a wee river over there just flowing down towards the road. So no, it's been really nice, and this last section's been lovely as well. I left the pack track and diverted across some open moorland and into the forest, and then down through the forest here. It's all been on nice tracks. So yeah, no, that's been really, really nice, really enjoyable. I'm back to the road now. There's a gate just down here ahead of me, and that's the start of the tarmac again. And then I have a series of just different roads that I have to follow until I get to the bottom of Donald's Hill, and then the big climb right up to the top of that. It's about a kilometre from the bottom up to the very top of Donald's Hill, but I don't go right the way to the top. So not really looking forward to finishing my day with a big climb like that. But hopefully this lovely weather sticks it out, and I get up there in the planned 3 hours. So I don't see why I wouldn't. As I said earlier on, I was quite nervous this morning about just being able to do the walk and the physical demands of it, but this last 3 hours has settled me down a good bit. So looking forward to the rest of this now, and I'm looking forward to getting set up camp tonight. I think I'm quite lucky that I'm going to get the first night dry and bright. It just gives me time and space to set the tent up and get used to it again, and and then take it down in the rain tomorrow. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy the good weather while it's here, and maybe the bad weather won't be as bad as expected. So better get on anyway. I'll be standing here for another 3 hours looking up at that hill. I made it. Yes. I'm sitting on top of Donald's Hill. Just out that way behind the camera is, it must be Loch Foyle, and that must be Limavady. Actually, I've just realised that's Limavady town I'm just looking out over. Drumsurn's just down here to my left, and I think I can see that's Bendradagh over there. So I've got a really, really good pitch and a really, really good view as well. So going by the weather forecast, I don't think I'm going to get a sunrise in the morning. I'm going to be lucky to get it dry in the morning, never mind anything else, which I'm really not looking forward to packing up in the morning in the wet, but sure, anyway, that's what it is. But fingers crossed that I'm going to get a nice sunset tonight anyway. So it's very nice out there so far anyway. I'm all set up in the tent here. I have the tent up, I have my sleeping mat out, all inflated to give me something a wee bit more comfortable to sit on, and I have my sleeping clothes all sorted out, ready to go. I have my sleeping bag out, trying to get it all puffed up for the night, just to get the down all lofted up so that it keeps me warm during the night. It's just gone 6 o'clock now. I'm pretty hungry, so I think I'm going to get dinner on and make something to eat. I've spoiled myself on this camp. I've brought my jet boiled skillet, I've brought some chicken, I've brought a pouch of rice that you just cook up in the skillet for 10 or 15 minutes, and some sweet chilli sauce. It's a bit heavier than carrying a freeze-dried meal, but they don't turn me on, those foods, at all. So I'd rather carry the extra weight and have something nice. Now, if I was going out for more than 2 nights, there's just no way I would do it. I would have to go down either the freeze-dried route or the meal pouches route. It just wouldn't be feasible. But for 2 nights, I can get away with it. So anyway, time to get dinner on. Me all sorted for the night. I'm having to record on my phone now. The GoPro batteries gave up. Couldn't cope with the cold. God, I didn't think it was that bad, but anyway, I'm all snuggled up here now in my down jacket, and I'm inside my sleeping bag as well, so I'm actually going to settle down for the night shortly. Dinner was nice, a wee bit more complicated probably than I needed to be making on a camping trip, but yeah, it was nice. I've had a cup of tea and a Snickers bar, and hopefully that'll carry me through to the morning time. And I've been out and had a pee as well, so hopefully that carries me through the night too, because it's very, very cold out there. It's lovely, but it's very, very cold. There's quite a strong breeze blowing now. I'm pretty exposed where I'm right up the top of the hill here, so it's pretty exposed, and but a lovely moon, really, really nice. So took a couple of shots of the tent with the moon behind, so hopefully that comes out nicely. So and I think I'm gonna read my book here for maybe an hour. It's just before 8 o'clock. I want to try and get settled down sleeping for about 9 o'clock or so, because I want to get up at 6 in the morning and get a good early start. The plan is to be away, ready to go and away by 7 o'clock. I want to give myself a full 10 hours to do the 30k tomorrow, to take me up to Bendradagh. I don't want to be under any kind of pressure. I was allowing 3 kilometers per hour, including breaks and stops and everything, so that worked out really well. And I'm hoping that it does again tomorrow. So yeah. I'm not sure what way I'm going to do these videos, whether I'm going to do one big video or whether I'm just going to break it up into individual days. So either way, I'll either see you in the morning or I'll see you in the next video. Night night.
Many hours later.
Hello. What happened to the International Appalachian Trail? What happened to the North Sperrins Way? Oh, weather, that's what happened as usual. That'll be the 3rd trip out in a row now that I've tried to do. The Blue Stacks hike with Ian from Barnaby Nut. I had the trip to the Mourns last weekend where I was planning a wild camp, and now a 3-day walk on the International Appalachian Trail. Wild camping on 2 nights, absolutely ruined by the weather yet again. You'll have seen in some of the footage there a wee while ago that it turned quite stormy on the night of day 1. It turned out to be the only day. So about 9 o'clock it started getting very windy, and the wind kind of built through the night and kind of sustained itself all through the night. And then about 11 o'clock it got really heavy with rain. It had been kind of raining on and off, and it had been forecast for some showers, but about 11 o'clock the heavens opened. The pitch I chose wasn't great. It was very exposed, and I was extremely exposed to the wind and the rain both. I had the tent, the wind was hitting the tent from the side here, from my left side, from that end of the tent where my head was lying, and constantly all night I had the tent blowing up against me, hitting up against me. The noise of the rain on the tent fly, even with earplugs in, it was just really noisy and really disturbing. But I think the wind was the main thing. Every time the wind would gust, it would come under the tent, it would come under the ground sheet and the actual footprint, and I could feel the whole lot vibrating, and it was just like it was almost as if the ground was vibrating. It was the most surreal experience, and fair dues to the wee Helm Compact 1 tent. It took an awful battering that night. I kept expecting for the tent to come in around me all night long, and I was really thankful and shocked and surprised the next morning to find that the tent was actually still standing and I was still safe. Again, fair dues to the tent. I was dry inside the tent. All my gear was dry. The only thing I got a bit wet was I had put my bag into the little second porch area just off to the side that you access through the Half Moon. That was the side the rain was coming in, that was the side the wind was coming in, so the wind had blown some rain up onto my bag, but I realised that halfway through the night, and I moved my bag over to the main porch, and it didn't get too bad, but there was nothing inside my bag anyway that could get damp. I had everything inside the tent with me. I was very concerned about things blowing away in the middle of the night as well, so I brought everything into the sleeping area of the tent, and managed to get through the night without losing anything. Well, the only thing I lost all night was sleep. I got very little sleep during the night.
I couldn't get, well, I was falling asleep, but every time there was a huge gust of wind, it was waking me back up again. The vibration of the tent that I've described already, I just couldn't sleep. Plus I was nervous and I was worried about the tent collapsing on me in the middle of the night. The next morning I woke properly, or I arranged to wake properly anyway, about 6 o'clock. The plan was to waken at 6, get breakfast, pack everything up and be ready to go by 7 again. The plan was to do 30 kilometres that day, and I wanted to allow a full 10 hours hiking time to get that done, and give myself, approximately 3 kilometres per hour timing, which worked well on day one. But when I got up, it was still lashing rain. The original forecast had been for light rain on the Monday morning, but it was absolutely lashing it down still, and still very, very windy. Absolute zero visibility up where I was as well. The cloud cover had come right down over the top of the hill, which made it very interesting and very difficult to navigate off the hill again. You go across Donald's Hill, you go across to an area called Rigged Hill, which is where the wind farm is, and it's pretty much trackless, featureless moorland. There are marker posts every sort of 100-150 metres, but with the low cloud, and then the fact that it was raining so much, I had to take my glasses off, so my visibility was reduced that way. So it was a very difficult hike out, but even just getting packed up was tough work. I had to pack everything inside the tent, and then because the outer tent was so wet, I actually unclipped the inner tent and packed it into my bag separately. Got out of the tent with all my waterproof gear on me, and my hiking clothes and everything ready to walk. Took down the outer tent and lifted the footprint, packed them away into the bag, got the rain cover back on again and headed off. And in fairness, that actually wasn't too difficult. It was about 7:30 by the time I got away, but I think some of that was just me messing about in the tent, just thinking, oh, what am I going to do, what am I going to do, am I going to do this, am I going to do that, panicking a wee bit. I think if I had just got at it, got my breakfast, got at it, I would have been packed up and away well within by 7 o'clock. That whole morning, it just lashed rain all morning. It was, as I said, I was crossing that bog area in the low cloud, constant heavy rain. It was absolutely horrible. Within about an hour and a half, I was absolutely soaked through. And just feeling really, really sorry for myself. It was such a stark contrast to the day before, when I was walking in my short sleeves and feeling really warm and enjoying the sunshine. The route took me down, as I said, over Rigged Hill, through the wind farm, down into Cam Forest, and eventually, after about an hour or so, I think, in Cam Forest, maybe less, it spits you out on one of the main roads between Limavady and Garva, in an area called Keady Mountain. The route then goes back into Cam Forest, over the hill to the main road between Coleraine and Limavady, and then into Springwell Forest and on for the rest of the day. But I had 10 kilometres by the time I got to Keady Mountain, by the time I was coming out onto the main road of Cam Forest, and I just had enough. I was absolutely soaked through. My waterproofs had been overwhelmed effectively. That little Berghouse jacket I have wouldn't be as heavy, say for example, as this Revolution Race one, and it just had got wet through. I could feel my jacket inside was wet, and I could feel my t-shirt inside wet. Water was starting to go up my sleeves, it was starting to get in here at the neck, at the open areas. Anytime I stopped for more than a couple of minutes, I could feel myself getting really, really cold. My legs were wet under my waterproof trousers as well, and my feet were damp. They weren't actually too bad, but they were damp, and I could have coped with that okay. But yeah, at 10 kilometres I just decided to pack it in. I just thought, no, I looked at the weather forecast, and it was giving the rain to last all day, into the night, overnight, and for most of the following morning, again into Tuesday morning. And I just thought, no, that's it, I've had enough. So instead of following the route, I walked along the main road and followed the road the whole way into Limavady, and arrived in Limavady just 10 minutes before a bus to Derry. Got the bus back to Derry, and then Katrina picked me up from the Foyleside Shopping Centre a few hours later. So kind of a disappointing and horrible end to what I'd hoped would be a 3-day hiking trip along the National Appalachian Trail following the North Sperrins Way. If I'm being perfectly honest with myself, I don't think I had the legs for that 30 kilometre day. Day one was tougher than I expected, and I totally underestimated the amount of climbing involved and the effort of carrying that heavy bag. Totally overestimated my own fitness as well. I think if I was recommending that route to anybody, I would say do it over 4 days and 3 nights camping and break it down to about 15-16 kilometers per day, unless you're super fit or going completely ultra light. But for me, it was just definitely too much, and I think it was maybe just as well that the weather turned so bad that first night. Although, I don't know, it might have been a different day if I'd have got a good night's sleep on the first night. But anyway, that was my adventure on the International Appalachian Trail. I'm going to have to rejig my plans now for later in the year. I had intended to do another 5/6 day section along the north coast later on at the end of May, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that now anyway, but listen, it's an adventure. We'll chalk it up to experience. I hope you enjoyed seeing me suffer. Well, you didn't actually see me suffer because I didn't do any recording on day 2 at all, apart from just at the very end when I was on the bus. But I hope you enjoyed what was day 1 and what was really an enjoyable hike on day 1, and seeing me getting set up in the tent on the first night. And as always, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching the video, thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll see you next time.